Right. So here. All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Dave Brown. I'm the office manager for the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs at VCU. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the curator of the Being My Own Boss events, which started last year for Women's History Month, and then carried over into Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And after that, my lovely supervisor said, you should just do this every month. So I jumped at the chance to bring some really unique individuals to the university, even though it's through a virtual platform at the moment. But I'm going to give each of my guests a chance to introduce themselves and go for it.
You want to go first, Alex?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alex Zavaleta. He, him. I am from Virginia, and I own 2 ice cream shops here in Richmond. One on Broad Street, right near VCU, and one in Southside. Dave, how do you want me to go into anything more aside from just introducing myself?
I think we'll hit that in the questions.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Ron Martinez. My pronouns are he, him. I grew up in Southern California. I am the, I guess you could say, president or of Crawlspace Booking, a business that I started 20 years ago. I'm a live entertainment booker. I have a small team of 3 other people with me, and we book live entertainment, punk, metal, alternative music, folk, rock, across North and South America and Canada. I'm also the bassist and songwriter of a rock and roll punk band called the Lower Class Brats. And I'm also the lead vocalist of a political, angry leftist punk band called Final Conflict, which started in 1985 in Los Angeles.
Great. All right, well, we'll start with you, Alex. You lived in Richmond years ago, but then eventually moved to the West Coast. When did you decide to open Charm School, and what made Richmond your choice for a destination?
Like I said, I'm originally from Virginia. I moved to the West Coast in 2007 to work for a company called Super 7. And I would say about 10 years ago, I started making ice cream as a pastime. That turned into maybe I could do this, as a profession, and started working on it, business plan, etc. And then I came back for a friend's wedding in Richmond in 2015. And my friends very quickly convinced me to open the shop in Richmond instead of San Francisco. And it was a pretty easy choice considering the cost of opening up a business in San Francisco. And to be honest, I miss Virginia. So I convinced my business partner to do so. And then we opened up in 2016 on Broad Street in Richmond. And yeah, it just made sense. I just, in terms of just business sense, it made sense, lower overhead, etc. But I just wanted to be someplace where I thought I could add something new and different. And that's what I did, I think.
Cool. You mentioned you started Crawlspace 20 years ago, and that you had some other folks involved in it. Who all was involved with it besides you when it originally started?
Well, actually, it was only until 2019 that I actually put together my team. At the beginning, it was just me solely. I always just considered this like my hobby. I never really considered it a job, even though it was my main source of income. It only took, 18, 19 years for me to really take it seriously, where I was like, I've got these other like-minded people that I see eye to eye on so many other points. And I should maybe get us all together and see if I already felt our modus operandi was alike in what we did. So I kind of put them under my umbrella. And I don't refer to them as employees. We're a team. I'm not the boss, and we're a team, and we work together. We also work as independent contractors, but it's all for the same goals, to work for our clients. And it's all the same vision. It's all based on our love of music and watching out for other artists. It's not, I mean, the monetary thing helps, but we don't take on a client based on monetary value or the potential for monetary value.
All right. Well, you mentioned that you've been in punk bands since the 80s. Do you think that you treat bands any differently or have different expectations coming from that background compared to somebody that maybe doesn't have those lived like tour experiences?
I definitely do, because not just myself, but the three partners I have, or the three of my team, we're all still working, playing musicians. So a lot of booking agents don't have that experience. They're either music fans that became promoters and then took it to another level. We all, myself included, we all have full experience of being a working touring musician. And so I have a lot of experience. I know what the band is going to go through, and we speak the same language, basically.
So Alex, Charm School, for anybody that hasn't been there, is definitely not a typical ice cream shop based on the flavors and just the variety of things that you serve there. So, and visually, it's definitely not a typical ice cream parlor either. I mean, it doesn't even have ice cream in the title. What were some of your inspirations that went into making Charm School stand out?
I would say it was the business I worked for before Super 7. I learned a lot, and I guess if if we're talking career path, I had no previous food experience whatsoever. Like, I always worked, but I'd never, I had worked a tiny bit in a bakery in San Francisco, but general managing, I should say, like not doing production. So I think a lot of what influenced Charm School was just bits and pieces of the other businesses that I had worked for, and sort of absorbed a little bit of that when it came to things like branding, etc. I just wanted to do something that I would personally have been into in terms of a business. So, and the ice cream industry has sort of been operating the same way since the 70s for the most part, with a few exceptions. So yeah, I just wanted to do something different that I enjoyed. And that sort of, once again, included pieces from my life, whether that was like the music that we played inside or the way it looked, or to be honest, a really simple menu. I don't like going to places where there's like 9,000 things on the menu. Maybe it's like ADHD, but I can't keep up. So rather just make it simple and keep it that way. And I think that's a big reason that people come to us.
To kind of piggyback off of that, you just opened a second location, south side, on the other side of the river. Was that something that you were like working on during COVID, during the lockdown, and are there any other plans for further expansion besides those two locations?
Yeah, actually, it had been planned way ahead of time. Actually, when COVID hit, we put it on pause for a second. We weren't sure if we were even going to do it. Everything had sort of, been thrown into a tizzy, but we decided to go ahead and go with it. One of the reasons being that even before COVID, we had put in a walk-up window. And that sort of saved us in terms of, how to operate safely during COVID. So we opened up the second location in May. I think May, yeah. And, we haven't like built out the inside. Really, we just work out of the walk-up window, and it's been pretty successful in terms of like a business model. And we actually had planned on doing a third one, but the whole project got scrapped. It was supposed to be a really big food hall in Scott's Addition that had a lot of other local Richmond businesses involved, but they, in the face of COVID, like mid last year, they scrapped the whole thing. So yeah, I'd say we'll probably open up a few more shops, whether that's in Richmond or maybe Northern Virginia or DC. I'm not sure, but you know, I'm not the type of person that pushes for wild expansion. That's also not really me in terms of business either. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Um, Kind of following, unfortunately, the COVID topic, when Ron, when COVID hit and locked down most of the world, you had numerous tours already booked and bands on tour at the time. How do you feel that Crawlspace was able to weather the pandemic?
Being well, patience. My therapist helped me get through it. Uh, I had some money put away because it was virtually everything came to a standstill for the business. A lot of tours are booked at least 3 to 6 months out, and I basically, when I started to get into the, oh wow, you know, just for the next, when we all thought we were going to be shut down for 3 months, maybe, I was like looking at a loss of about $37,000, and and that was of net, like that was all profit. And so I was like, oof, you know, like, well, you know, it's not, hopefully it won't last. But, you know, luckily, had a lot of money put away for a rainy day. And one of the lessons of punk rock has always been, we're here, let's make it work. Not just go, oh, well, everything's screwed up, I guess I just gotta wait. No, we've never, it's one of the most important things I learned about punk rock was like, when you're in a situation, you make it work. And so it was a lot of like looking at grants and organizations like Music Cares, and we got grants, and working on some side hustles. I spent a little bit of money and worked on doing analog audio to digital transfer for some labels, and just made it work, you know, and talking to my artists and staying in touch, and just kind of waiting till it was safe, you know, or safe for the best possible time. Got through it. It was rough, but never worried too much about a roof over my head or anything like that. I always would always, when I would get a little on the negative side, I always remember that there was always somebody that was having it far worse than me. I would see it on TV, or I would hear about it. So I just focused on the positive, and knew that eventually something was going to work out. We were going to figure out a way, whether it was live streaming was going to last for years or like whatever, but got through it, you know, and slowly doing baby steps back into live music. A lot of my artists have said they're still going to wait, but if it hadn't have been for like support of my wife and friends, my artists, and you know, and a few grants here and there, I mean, that made it all. You know, I've been fortunate. I've always never been an A to B guy. I'm always A to Z, always thinking ahead. So although I think none of us would have expected this to happen, you know, you just gotta like just move forward. Like what Alex said, like luckily he had a walk-up window already in mind. He made that work for his business and was able to stay. Like, you know, it sucked, you know, but still here, you know, and I'm grateful. You know, I didn't have to get a job at UPS or anything like that, you know.
I don't know. Did we lose Dave's audio?
I think we did, Dave. I think we lost your audio.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see. So what is it like trying to book, since you mentioned you book shows like 3 to 6 months out, like what is it like trying to book shows and tours again? And do you feel like in reality, it's really the right time to be doing so?
I leave that up to the artist if they want to go back on the road. And I think that depending, I mean, if you pay attention to the news, it's all geographical. In certain states, COVID is just running rampant. And I leave it up to the client. I do give my opinion, which I think in certain areas it still isn't really too safe to be gathering people if you live in an area that has no then this is my own opinion. Like, my opinion is, if you live in a state that's not doing mask mandates, your vaccination rates are really low, and the venues are not insisting on masks when you're indoors and things like that, don't really feel too comfortable about that. And I don't really think you should be playing. I don't think we should be doing stuff to get people together. But the music community and venues have really, even in states where it's you have certain politicians that are almost trying to fight against safety. The music communities come together because we want to provide music for people. We want to gather people together, but we want to do it safely. And a lot of venues have their own policies where a lot of them are saying, if you can't show proof of vaccination or proof of a negative COVID test, no rock and roll for you. And they ask that people wear masks, so that we're trying to police ourselves as much as possible and give everybody a safe experience, but so I'm conflicted on it at times, but I leave it up to my artists to decide. And the majority of my artists have said, we'll wait until 2022 and see where we're at. And this is what they do for a living. And they've been sitting on their hands for 1.5 years now. And some of them are going out, but we've deliberately avoided certain hotspots.
All right. So Alex, when Trump School closed down, what were you actually doing to kind of, keep the business going and all that? And what factors went into the decision to reopen when you did?
It was, I would say like March 2020, when the shit really hit the fan. We closed down for a while. We sort of sent our employees home, and we were just like, we'll continue to pay you as long as we have the money to, as we're trying to monitor the situation. Sort of what Ron said, it was like, what's going to happen? Is it going to be 3 months? Is it going to be 10 years? I don't know. So we just did that. And then we just couldn't, we eventually sort of pivoted, people use that term a lot, but we pivoted, and instead of doing scoops, we just sold ice cream and pints out the door, but we didn't bring our employees back because we just, I don't know, it didn't feel right to put anyone on the line at that point, as it should sort of always be. So it was just me and my business partner, scooping hundreds of gallons of ice cream into pints and selling them out the door. And we continued to do that basically until, we didn't really make much ice cream until I would say November. And then we closed up in November because November, even if everything's normal, is not prime ice cream time. You'll sell some ice cream here and there, but maybe not worth even keeping in COVID, keeping the freezers running. Just like it's not even worth it financially to do that. So we closed up and we started to work on the other shop and sort of come up with a game plan. We did, as Ron said, part of punk is sort of being okay, well, how do we make this work? And that was getting grants and getting, for us, getting a PPP loan and still paying our employees because they need to live too, and we just continued to do that. And then we reopened in May. Well, I should say we opened the new spot in May out of the walk-up window. And it had been a really long time at that point, over 1 year since we had done anything in sort of that respect. And it was really jarring. I think it was jarring for everyone, jarring for customers, jarring for us, speaking to people in public again. It had been a while for me. And we sort of rolled it out slowly. And, we had all our employees came back, which was really nice. And, then we slowly opened up the one on Broad Street. And that one was also we changed that, where it was like, you can come in, you can order a scoop, but like you can't do samples. We're trying to do as safe as possible, and sort of just kept in constant contact with our employees to be like, how do you feel? How are, because really in the end, we always say like, a scoop of ice cream isn't worth anyone getting sick over. And, whether that's our customers or our employees, like I didn't want to do that. And, that comes with masks too. Like we still require people to wear masks in our shop, and we don't let people eat inside. I just don't feel comfortable doing that yet. And until numbers come down, like for the foreseeable future, that's what we're doing. So yeah, I think that would probably be the sort of like main drive in how we decided to open back up. Is it safe? Do our employees feel safe? Can we, comfortably do this? And, we found that median, because we would say like, oh, like in terms of like a business in the ice cream industry, it's a bell curve throughout the year. Like March is when people collectively remember ice cream again, at least on the East Coast. And then it gets busy. And then after Labor Day, it just like tanks. But you're prepared for that because summer is really good. Summer is really popular. So we will likely close again this winter and then reopen again in March, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, we sort of, we did things in a way that sort of let everyone stay safe, and hopefully we'll continue to stay safe in our business anyway. Oh, we lost you again. There we go.
So this question is for both of you, and I'll just have Alex answer first. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while having careers that are anything but like typical 9-to-5 jobs?
One would argue that, yeah, I mean, it's pretty tough. I mean, I will say, and this is like a piece of advice I give to anyone who's starting at least like a retail business. But I guess this go for everyone. I and my business partner and I have structured the business so, although not in terms a little bit of like what Ron said, like profit is not the main motivator for us. The main motivator, at least for me personally, is like a quality of life. I have set up business so one, our employees are well taken care of, and with that in place, that means to a certain extent they're more dependable, at least in the way that I see it. So that helps my work-life balance, because like, for example, if I've worked too much throughout the week, we have enough employees that I can like just walk away and be like, okay, you guys take care of it. Like, let me know how things are going. I also have a business partner that helps as well. But, I think that for me is super important in terms of business, not only, once again, profitability, but structuring a business in a way that suits what you want out of life. And, and if what I want out of life is to be able to walk out the door when I feel like it, I've set it up pretty well to do that.
I'm in 100% agreement with everything Alex said. During the pandemic, since I had a lot of downtime, one of the things that I said to myself, look, and I have a lot of free time, Martinez, so figure this out, restructure the business and restructure yourself and how you look at the business and how you operate it. And one of the things I did was I decided that I was overworking a little bit. And so that meant that I had to part ways with certain clients once the ball got rolling again. And I wanted to focus on quality work and not quantity work. And I think I had started to let my love for what I do in music and wanted to work with every band. And then I was running myself ragged. And so I really streamlined everything and how we operate. And I also started to just, when 7:30, 7 o'clock p.m. starts to roll around, I make myself stop working. Like, I don't address any more emails. I'm done for the workday. And I make sure I have a certain amount of time to myself. And I don't, and it's paid off so much, and making sure, like, I mean, Alex will agree with me. The most important thing is to be healthy yourself, like mental health, physical health, getting lots of sleep, getting at least 8 hours of sleep, giving yourself some downtime, just to, whether it's meditation or just put your earbuds on and zone out. And it's really important. It makes your work better. It makes the quality of your work better. And like you said, since the pandemic, I've been really adamant about that, of making sure that I have private time. And even when I have a client, sometimes just saying no and saying, you know what, we're going to do this first thing tomorrow. We're going to take care of this. And, but I really need to, I really need to shut down now so I can do good work for you tomorrow. Like getting plenty of sleep, eating good, healthy food, is so overlooked but so important, and makes everything. And I just turned 56 today. And
Hey, happy birthday.
when I tell people how old I am, they flip the fuck out. And one of the things is like, I want to still have people flipping out. So I know I need to take care of myself. I can't do right by my team. I can't do right by me. I can't do right by my family if I'm not taking care of myself. And it really is like, self-care is utterly important, because it makes you take care of your employees. I think there's this nonsense going on in the media about that there's a labor shortage. There's not a labor shortage. There's people who are tired of getting overworked and underpaid. And I don't even know Alex personally, but I can already tell he has a personal relationship with his employees and cares about their well-being. And that's important, because you will have good employees if you just let them know that you trust them, you let them have breathing room, and you treat them with respect. That's all anybody wants. And with my team, it's the same way. I stay in my lane when it comes to their work. I might oversee it, but I stay in my lane with these people. And I remember years ago, I worked at a record label and I was put in the position to fire somebody. And to this day, that guy says I was the coolest firing he ever had. Because I talked to him about it. I said, look, we're going to have to let you go. And it sucks. But it wasn't like, your job's, you're horrible at your job and blah, blah, blah. And like, no, I mean, treat people like you want to be treated. And that's what I love about being my own boss is every day I try to be the leader that I want to be led by, and it all feeds into, like I said, how you can have a personal life and stuff. It's hard to run a business and to shut down. And again, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it took me 20 years to kind of really, like, Martinez, slow the hell down. Like, you're not going to miss an opportunity. You're not going to, and it's made my work better by doing that. I think it's important. And anybody watching this, it's one of the top things I can say is, like, keep yourself healthy. It will make whatever you do better.
Yeah. I think what Ron said was something that was, like, really important. It's something that comes up a lot, at least for me personally, which I don't know that most people would realize this, and other people that are in my industry would think I'm out of my mind for saying, but saying no is super important. Saying no as a business owner, being able to say no to work is important. And for me, sometimes that's customers. I'm sure everyone has seen it. There have been some really wild attitudes and people coming out, not even post-pandemic, but during this pandemic, where people were horrible. And, once again, no one gets to abuse one of my employees for $4, and no one gets to yell at us for $4. So a lot of times they're, in the first 4 years that I ran charm school, we never once can I think of where I had to kick someone out. I've had to kick out so many people and ban so many people in the last year, it is wild. I still can't believe it. But I that comes a little bit back to what you asked, Dave, which is like, balancing this work life, but you have to make the work part of it not just tolerable, but something that doesn't sort of kill you when you're off time. And once again, being able to say no and being like, we just simply won't do that, just makes everything else in terms of life quality better. A lot of what Ron said, I 100% agree with. And we come from completely different industries, and I don't know if that is just simply growing up punk or what it is, but what he said is important in it, and I'll continue to sort of push, not necessarily being different for the sake of being different, but just running my business the way I think it should be run. And I think more and more businesses, especially post-pandemic, are doing that. And there may be less convenience, but I think overall, there isn't a labor shortage. I had no problem keeping all of my employees, or having employees who were working somewhere else immediately leave their job to come and work for me. It's something that's important that, at least, especially in the service industry, I think more businesses would do better if they just, this is a wild idea, respect your employees and maybe pay them the way they're supposed to be paid. I'm supposed to go talk at Penn State in January for this ice cream conference. And I really don't think they're expecting me to say what I'll be saying there. But it's something that I think the industry probably needs to hear.
Definitely. And thank you for standing up for your employees, man, because it really is not going to let someone mistreat someone I work with for a couple bucks. That doesn't mean everyone's going nuts post-pandemic. Everyone's emotions are in a thing, but that doesn't mean it's all the more reason we should be nicer to each other. It's all the more reason we should be a little more understanding. And I think where growing up punk comes into all of this, and us being able to say no about things, is punk taught us to try to find that thing we love and make it work. And I'm not going to love my job if I feel like garbage, or I'm working with someone treating me like garbage. I've had artists that I work with, and they ended up not being really nice people, but I made a lot of money with them, but I still left. I still ceased working with them because it wasn't worth it. It made me unhappy. It was like blood money. And yes, money is important. Money pays the bills. Money does that. But there is that way to make it work, where you can do what you love what you do. And if you do that, it shows to other people. And those are the people that are going to come to you. Those are the people that are going to want to support you. Those are the people who are going to want to work with you. And I'm not a religious person, but I am really blessed that I am able to make a living playing live music, working with live music, playing punk rock. I'm in my 50s. I'm 56. I'm playing punk rock still. When I was 16, I was like, God, I wonder what I'm going to be doing in 10 years. Probably working in a bank, And no, it's like I take care of those I love, and I'm taken care of by those who love me. And it had not been from getting involved in punk rock, I wouldn't have been inspired to take those chances and do these things. But again, it all comes to saying no, and realizing, sometimes you might have to look like the bad guy, but it's for the greater good of everything. And no, can't do it right now. Not letting greed get in the way of that extra. I just got offered a side business job, and I wanted to do it, but it was going to take away from what I was doing, and it was going to put me in that overwork thing. And I had to say, God, thank you, but no, I can't. It's just, there's nothing better than being your own boss, but it's also learning how to be your own boss, to tell yourself no sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. since this program is being held during Latinx Heritage Month, I wanted to ask you both, and if you want to answer first, Ron, since you're kind of on a roll here. What have been some of the challenges you faced as a minority within your respective industries, and how do you work to overcome those challenges?
I'm going to be honest. Being Mexican American, Hispanic, whatever, really hasn't it hasn't been an obstruction in any way. One of the ugly truths is because I'm a straight male, and a lot of people, because I have kind of more Native American in me, they don't even think they know I'm not exactly white, but they can't figure it out. I've had Asian people mistake me for Asian and talk to me about those Mexicans before, and I've been like, what exactly those Mexicans? Like the Mexican like I am? But it hasn't really held me back in any way, except for maybe I can think of a few incidences I can like where I was working with a promoter, actually a venue owner in San Diego, and he started complaining about the artists that I was bringing to him. And he was basically saying like, well, I like dealing with your artists because they make a lot of money. But he goes, but I just don't like the problem that they bring to their shows. And so I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, they bring all these dirty Mexican kids to my club. And I just went, whoa. And I just said, listen, man, did you even know what my last name is? And before you could answer, I just said, how dare you think you could talk to me like that? I go, and dare you disparage their fans in that way? I go, dirty Mexicans? And I told him, fuck you. Show is canceled. Don't ever call me again. And I'm going to let everybody know what a fucking racist asshole you are. Now, I didn't go on a campaign against this guy, but what I did was he never got any of my business. And any time that I talked to another person, I said, hey, I just want to let you know you're doing business with that guy. That guy's a bigot. And if you want to continue to work with him, that's your prerogative. I just want to let you know how he feels about half of the people that go to his place. You know, and that's a standout one because I've really not had to encounter any kind of, you know, overt like racism like that since or before. So it's never really been an issue. I have on my team, Kat, one of our agents, she's a longtime musician, booking agent, and I've had to hear more disappointing and disparaging stories coming at her just because she's a woman and being, you know, treated in a condescending way and you know, so, but for me, no. And I grew up in a very working class part of Southern California. Like my neighborhood was half white, half Latino, Hispanic, and color never, you know, I'm really fortunate where color wasn't that much of an issue. Everybody's parents both worked. They were trying to pay the mortgage and stuff. It was when I went to other areas where I would notice the racism or see it. And but I've been pretty fortunate, and I think a lot of the reason is because I'm a straight male, and I'm aware of that. But it does all the more reason that when I have encountered certain things, I've made a point to point out the ignorance and say, screw you, man. Like, I'm not going to work with you. I'm not going to, you know, it's kept me kept me from working maybe with certain artists that I thought I wanted to work with when I found out there was some bigoted ideas or something. But I've been really fortunate in that. But I've always been a person that's spoken my mind. I've never been like, well, if they're nice to me, I'm not gonna. No, I've always been outspoken. So maybe it's also kept people away from me, you know, like those type of encounters, because people know I won't take no shit when it comes to that. But you know, I think it's got more to do with the fact that I do look Caucasian to most people, and I'm straight. I'm a straight male, you know, and it kind of sucks in reality, you know, but it's also, maybe it's helped me push my views in certain ways too, you know, that I've gotten my foot in the door in other ways.
How about you, Alex?
Oh, very similar to Ron. You know, I'm light skinned. My parents from El Salvador, and you know, mestizo, native, where of course, like due to colonialism, also like some European in it. But yeah, I've always been light skinned. And in terms of the industry, it's a little bit of like what Ron says, where like when you are light skinned, you run into a lot of wild racism because people believe that you're white, and they like let their guard down and they say really wild shit. And yeah, you know, dealt with it my entire life. First generation American, and you know, watched a lot of racism thrown at my family. Sometimes, once again, them not knowing that they were my family, or that brown couple were my parents. Um, and you know, that is something that sort of sticks with you. And once again, through the lens of punk, etc. Yeah, I don't think that anything that I've experienced is, you know, just pales in comparison to, once again, what any of my employees who are people of color have gone through. You know, and it's a little bit of what I was saying earlier. I run in so often that a white, straight, older male will treat my employees completely different when I'm standing there and when I'm not standing there. And the way they speak to women or anyone that is marginalized is completely different. And, you know, it's like, Ron, I don't deal with that shit. They can go anywhere else. That's usually what I tell them. You can go anywhere else but here. You know, it's not worth it. And, you know, especially with what happened last summer, you know, I think it's at least, you know, the little that I can do is one, trying to do what I can for the community, trying to be as, you know, keep a diverse staff as possible, you know. And um it's never ending. Like it really isn't. And misogyny is also a completely different thing as well, where, you know, I thought I understood how misogynistic the world was until I opened up a business with a woman, and that changed everything completely. Because I watch it every day. Once again, people will treat my business partner like she isn't 50% of the business. And there have been times where I've had to say to people, can you please stop just talking to me and talk to my business partner? One, because I won't remember what you're talking about, and two, she's the one who's in charge of this. So yeah, whether it's racism, which permeates everything within our culture, or misogyny, or, you know, everything else. So yeah, you know, it's important for me, if I can, if someone, you know, and if we're talking of something like equity, you know, to try to help marginalized people who work for me, you know, advance as much as they can. Um, and, you know, that's one of the small things I can do within this like world that I've created in terms of business to do that. And you know, I don't, you know, the industry, the ice cream industry, is overwhelmingly old, white, and male. And they, like, when I mentioned Penn State, every year for 130 something years, they have this ice cream short course that is also basically an ice cream conference. And I have been twice before, and I'm going, I think, in January, third time as a speaker. But, you know, the people who are different in there, just like in high school, sort of like congregate together, because they know that, like, one, their views will not be sort of amplified there. but it's important to sort of like get to know everyone and sort of like help everyone through that. And so if you're talking about if we're talking about, and just not Latin Americans, but for example, for everyone here, Ruby Scoops ice cream shop in Northside. During the middle of last year, I knew that Rabia was trying to open up her shop. I didn't know her, but I reached out to be like, hey, how can I help you? Because I know it's hard enough to open up an ice cream shop when everything is normal, much less if you're a Black woman in the middle of the pandemic. So the least I could do is offer her a space, which is what we did, to come in and make ice cream during that time, and it's sort of taking the positions that Ron and I have, in whatever they are, and using it to like sort of just push for a better agenda and push for change in whatever way that you can. So yeah, very similarly, light-skinned, straight male, but how do I make things better? How do I make things equitable, not only in my industry, but in the community at large?
Yeah, you say something to me that I think is inappropriate. I'm going to say something to you about it. I'm not just going to go, cool, bro. Like I'll say, hey, that kind of bothers me. You say that. I might ask them why they feel that way and say, well, my view is this, you're not going to get away with it. And what he said about, what Alex said about helping basically your a competition, someone else is going to start another ice cream store. This is the punk rock way. Like, instead of going, that's the competition, I got to do what I have to do what I need to do to protect my ass. It's more like, no. Like, as an agent, I'll help other people. Because I look at it, if they do well, I'm going to do well too. Like, we all win in the end. And I'm really glad we did this, because sometimes I need this affirmation that what I'm doing is I am going about the right way, standing up for my employees, and also making a point to, Alex, what you were saying was, someone wants to argue with you and your partner, and then they start directing the conversation at you. Because I've had that same thing happen with my agent, where she will tell a promoter or a venue something they don't like, and then all of a sudden this promoter is blind copying me in the email conversation like they're telling a dad.
Oh yeah.
And that upsets me to no end. So I will interject with them, and I go, hey, listen, I know you want me to see what's going on here. I'm just telling you that whatever she says is what goes. This is her project. This is her thing. She's the boss. Well, Ron, could you just like kind of help her to see my way? And I'm like, well, her way is my way. That's why we work together. So, and I will never say this to someone else that we have a difference in opinion. Like, even if my team member might be doing something in a different way than I would do it, I'm still going with their decision. Because again, I want them to understand that I support them. And I wouldn't be working with them if I thought that they would make bad decisions.
Yeah, it builds trust.
Yeah. And nobody can trust me if I'm continually getting in the way of their projects, getting in the way of the work, and just let me fix this. Let me fix it. Like, that's not why I got us all together to work together. I already knew they could do the job. I just wanted to be surrounded by like-minded people, that we all had the same goal. And it's like, I got to back them up, man. And I've never regretted a decision when I backed up one of my team. Not at all. Like, I felt empowered by them, and again, being light-skinned males, we might not have encountered a lot of stuff, but we do. That one thing that struck me is when you watch how other people treat your partner. And I've had to see that so many times, how one musician or something will talk to me one way, And then one of my team comes and then they talk to them like they're the help. And it irritates me to no end. And I will always think of a tactful way of saying, I would like you to speak to them exactly the way you speak to me. Like, cause we're all the same. It's all in the same chain. You know, this stuff is like the small stuff, but it's really important, you know, very important to me, at least.
I think a lot of that comes from both of you growing up in the punk scene. You know how important it is to treat people like how they want to be treated, not necessarily like how you think they want to be treated. And it's like, it makes your business successful because you're not second guessing people just to keep that dollar in your pocket. And you're not, with Alex, like you're not letting them feel right for how they're treating you and how they're treating your partner in the process, because you're standing up for them, even if they may not even catch how different they're being treated. Like you're still standing up for them, not waiting for them to notice. And
yeah, and I mean, it's once again, and you could, business ethics, business classes, they will, the biggest piece of advice that I can give someone is you don't have to run your business the way everyone else runs their business. Now, once again, that may not be the most profitable way to do it, but in the end, you have to live with yourself and the decisions you make. And that's really important at the end of the day, to run the business the way you would like to. Once again, that comes from punk and hardcore, where it's like, yeah, for those who aren't super aware, like, Ian and Discord Records to this day, like, influence an ice cream shop. You know what I'm saying? Like, wanting to be like, oh, I'm just going to do this my way. It works for me. It is not what the industry tells you to do, but it works for me. And if that is ethics or just processes, etc., it's important. And don't second guess yourself if it's going to work. And it may not always work. That happens too. Like there have definitely been things within my industry where I'm like, whoa, there's a reason people do it that way, but it's worth trying. And when it comes back to the question you asked, yeah, like I can't emphasize enough how important it is that your employees aren't like this. I don't know. There's this hierarchy that exists, and every time I hire someone, my business partner, I always tell them, like, we've worked a lot of shitty jobs. It's just true. Like, I've worked a lot of horrible retail jobs. I know how bad it is. And I know how horrible people can treat you and how Americans are like addicted to feeling served when they go out. So like, I don't want anyone to hate their job when they come to work for me. I don't want them to dread it. Like, in this society, like, it's something that most people, we have to do. But I want my employees to be happy. I want to feel good about myself at the end of the day in the way that I run the business. So
we had for Women's History Month, we had Kim Graziano, who owns Black Rabbit Tattoo, and she was talking about, like, when she apprenticed, she had a horrible time. She was treated like crap. She was like, oh, women can't tattoo, like all this like horribly degrading stuff by the person that was actually apprenticing her. And part of the reason why she started her business as being all female identified staff, from like the front desk person to all the tattoo artists there, was because she knew that she would never ever treat anybody that she apprentices like that. And she would and it was a very conscious thing of, I know how awful that made me feel. And that's how they just do it in some places, but I'm not going to necessarily do it that way. Like how you were saying, like, oh, wow, they're telling me to do it this way, but I'm going to do it this way because I feel like it's right for my business. And I feel like that's a big part that a lot of people miss when running their own business. They're so concerned with doing it how everybody else does that's been successful, rather than thinking, well, maybe they were breaking some rules themselves, and that's what made them successful.
Sure. I mean, like, I could have opened, like, there are some like business 101 things that, like, sure, like, we have an accountant. I kind of need one of those. Couldn't do that on my own. But that's also something else. Like some people would be like, do your own books, and I'm like, well, that's not really where my strong suit is. So I'll just continue to sort of like use this compass that I have to run the business in a way that I think works and works for me and works for my business partner and works for my employees. And hopefully we're still here in another 5 years.
Okay. This one's for both of you, and since you were just talking, Alex, I'll have you answer. First, what are some industry changes in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion that you hope to see in the future?
Yeah. I think I talked a little bit about this just now. Yeah, like if anyone has not seen the movie Donut King, it's a great documentary about Asian-run donut shops in California. I would love it if there was honestly, if that was something I could do for any Central Americans, Latin Americans, to like learn how to make ice cream. Probably one day I'd love to do that. Where what this guy did was, as people came over, immigrants, Cambodian immigrants, Vietnamese, etc., he taught them how to make donuts. He had worked at a Winchell's, and that's something that I think, once again, an overwhelmingly white male industry, I think, could really benefit from. Is really having diversity, and not only like business wise, but honestly flavors. For the love of God, like how much buttered pecan can someone eat, really? With that said, I love buttered pecan, but like it helps in terms of my industry, in terms of diversity and inclusion. Like we need those people. We need something different. Always. It will just make, especially with food, like I tell people, I'm like, when they talk about like what my customer base is, I'm like, it is from ages 1 to 100, and it includes everyone. Like and that was coming from another business that I worked, where it was the opposite. It was like a very specific type of person that I was catering to. So yeah, and if the little things that I can do in terms of that, I'll do it. And I hope that more people of color get involved in this like industry that I'm involved in. How to bring those people in, I'm not sure, because it is also intimidating as well. Once again, when it's overwhelmingly old and white, it's rough, and I understand why people don't want to. I don't I don't know what other industries to compare it to that are like that. But yeah, I'd hope that I hope that it does happen and it continues to grow. And once again, if you're here in Richmond, go to Ruby Scoops in Northside, try them out. It's a great way to also like just support a Black and woman-owned business, and queer-owned also. Yeah, her business partner as well. So yeah, go there, support them, support all the Richmond ice cream shops, that are there and that make their own ice cream. That's also something that's super important too. For there, I don't want to be negative, but for a lot of people in the ice cream business, it's like this weird side hustle. They're like realtors during the day, and they do these other things, but like they're not that invested in what it truly is. For a lot of people, it's just like they had an extra like 500,000, so they threw it at an ice cream shop, but they're not, they don't really care about the industry or doing what it is simply like a profit making thing for them. So once again, I would tell people, just go and support a place like Ruby Scoops. I can't, she just won that Food Network challenge with Ben and Jerry. So hopefully also you'll be able to go to a Ben and Jerry soon and buy some of her flavors. But yeah, I think that's that's the best that I can do. And it's something that is always a work in progress, you know, especially here in America.
For me, I think some of the changes, like it wasn't until during like the pandemic hit and I had all this time to think, I realized that I'm pretty sure Crawlspace, my agency, is one of the only like Hispanic / Latino owned rock booking agencies in the United States. Now, it might not be 100%, but as far as the people I know and the people I work with in the industry, it seems to be, and they're in agreement with me. Like, I think it is. That was never, it's not an intention. But because I become aware of that, it's kind of in the back of my head to kind of like make sure to kind of fly that flag, because I work in an industry that is mostly dominated by straight white males. And there is a certain sect, even within the punk and hardcore communities, of industry people that I refer to as the entourage, that have a very boys club mentality. And I want to make sure to kind of like usher in the death of that. With Me Too becoming at the forefront for the last couple of years, it made me and a lot of other like-minded musicians and people involved, where we were kind of like, hey, you know what? We haven't been paying enough attention to like a lot of the female rock bands out there. Like, sure, every once in a while you get a band like Bikini Kill that makes a lot of like noise and stuff like that and gets a lot of attention. But there's far more like women artists out there, and bands of marginalized people. It's like, hey everyone, the Bad Brains like weren't the only all black punk band out there. Okay. There was a band before the Bad Brains. There's going to be plenty more, and it's kind of become something where we are, and I really want to get that message out within my industry. It's like we need to be attentive. Like the guys at Punk Rock Bowling, within the last few years, they were like very adamant. Like I remember I was suggesting this band to them that I wanted on, and he goes, "I'd love to have them on, but Ron, like we really know that we need to be more aware and make room for more women-led bands." And do you have any bands with women like majority in them, or because we want to make sure that we're on top of this and not falling behind. And so we've allocated, because we know the bands are out there and they're talented. We just need to find them that want to play for us. And I was like, I went from being disappointed that they weren't going to consider my artist to being stoked that they were being aware that we needed to have more rock women out there. And so that is a thing with what I do is, like making sure that I'm aware and we're finding bands with women in them and marginalized people. And it's a very important to me that we vet every artist that we work with. There is a vetting process, no matter how good the band is. If there's something where we're not politically on board with, we're not going to work with you. It's okay. It's okay if you don't want to be political, but if you're political in a way that works against what we want, then we'll move on to the next artist. And I always try to be apolitical in a lot of things, but this is the one thing that I've made a point post-pandemic is to be more aware of pushing things. Like Alex will know this. Like if your neighborhood was mostly white and it starts to get a little browner, your food is going to get so much better in your neighborhood. Okay, and diversity is awesome. It is. It's awesome. It will open you up to more experiences in so many ways. And I feel that there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of phobia, homophobia, transphobia and stuff like that, only because people just live in communities that don't experience other people, you know, and with supporting businesses that are queer owned or minority owned is a step in that direction where people, your average Joe white guy that wants to get a good ice cream and it just happens to be owned by the Black queer woman or the Salvadorian guy, you know, like that's a step in the right direction. Like I work in the rock world and most of it is dominated by, you know, white dudes. And but I'm gonna guide them towards one of my bands. I always felt my job was, when I was a kid, I was a mixtape guy, made mixtapes for everybody. Okay. Like, here's a band called Minor Threat. You need to listen to them. And here's this and that. What I do now is I'm a human mixtape. I find all these bands I like, I put them out on the road, let people experience them. Say, here, I dig this. I think you would too. Check it out. Open up your mind, you know? But I think it's what I want to see. And I think it is part of my responsibility to take part in this and help push this and help push, you know, diversity, because I have the ability to do it. And so it is my responsibility.
Okay. Since you've both been doing this for a while, what advice would you give to your younger selves? And what would you like your legacy to be?
Younger self, I don't know. I don't think younger self would have ever listened to anything I had to say. Legacy, I don't know as well, to be honest. Like, it's a tough question. I don't know. I think in terms of legacy, I really want to be at the forefront of businesses paying their employees well. It's, you know, it's what we've talked about quite a bit during this, but, you know, I want, you know, there are points where, you know, if you work at charm school, that you can make, you know, $30 an hour scooping ice cream. You know, I have employees who have left healthcare, who have left, you know, the design world to come and work for us. And I know some of that is just, you know, simply money. Like, they work less and I make more. And if I can work towards that a little bit more and hope that other shops like mine continue to push that, I think overall, if you're talking about community and helping community, and it's not so much like direct action, but it's something I think that's close that you can do. I think that's probably the best that I can do in terms of that. And once again, helping people's quality of life.
I think what the version of me now would tell my younger self is, one, you're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to please everybody. Not everyone's going to want to be your friend. Don't take everything personal. And don't take what you do. Don't make what you do. Don't think what you do is so precious. Just do it really well. And do it to the best of your ability. And that's really it. I mean, it would have saved me a lot of aggravation and time, you know, and as far as a legacy, man, I don't know either. Like, maybe it's like, hey, I met him once and he was really nice to me. He was really polite. Because I look at the people that I like, people who I've looked up to, that I've had the opportunity to meet, like writers and musicians. And as talkative as I am as a person, I've always shut up around them and usually just thank them for the words or the books that they've done or the music, and just get my thing signed. And any of them that was ever kind to me, I've never forgotten, you know? So yeah, I mean, I just think that is like, to tell, you know, my younger self, like, don't get butthurt over everything, and it's just enjoy what you do and put 110% into it, and sleep well at night. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really fortunate. Some people never figure it out in life, you know, and not that I think I have life figured out, but I'm in a good place right now.
All right, the last question. Alex, you kind of mentioned something about this earlier, so I'll let you start on this one. If you could pass along one piece of advice to someone wanting to follow in your business footsteps, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's what I said earlier. I think just you don't have to run your business like the industry tells you to or the way other people tell you to. You know, there is risk involved with that, but you know, the reward is usually you know, better. Like I I truly believe that Charm School as a business runs you know, pretty counter to what, you know, the ice cream industry tells us to do. And um you know, as long as you know why you're doing it, or you know the motivations behind it, etc., and you think it can work out, that's what you do, you know. And once again, I think, you know, we've talked so much about it, but you know, punk teaches you that, like, yeah, you know, the world wants you to do things this way, and it doesn't have to be done that way. And you know, whether that's, you know, ethically or business wise or in between, you know, it's important that, you know, you run your business the way that you see fit. And you know, and there are, once again, some business 101 things that, you know, you can't really get past, but you know, hey, hats off to you if you can do it. Yeah, I think that would be the biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone. Learn from who you work for too. You know, I we sort of tell all our employees, like, this is not like a career for you. This will not, you know, be forever for you. And I hope that you know, that one day they go on to do something bigger and better. Or maybe they stay with us forever, but I don't think that would be the case.
I would tell anybody wanting to follow my footsteps, and I've had that where I've had people say they want to get into being a booking agent. And I would tell them, like, work with what you love. Don't make, you know, we've talked about this multiple times. Don't let money be your motivating factor. Like, I'm going to work with this artist because I think they're going to break big. I don't care about the music, and I think they're rotten people, but I think they're going to be big, and I want to be the guy behind them. It's the worst motivation to work with them. And I always tell them, like, find bands and artists that you believe in, that you enjoy them as people, you enjoy their music, because your work for them will be so much better. Like, you're fighting the good fight. And that's like with the team at Crawlspace. Everybody is working with what they love, with bands they believe in, and they enjoy their music, and they enjoy them as people. And it makes your work so much better. It doesn't create guilt. Like you're working, you know, like if you were working for some horrible corporation. And I think it is really it's all goes back to what Alex had said earlier about being inspired by Discord Records, inspired an ice cream parlor. Discord Records inspired me, like, to what I do, which was putting out something that you love and hoping people would be into it, you know. And it's the same thing with Crawlspace. It was with the labels that I've been a part of and the records that I put out on my thing. Again, it's all about working with what you love and doing it to the best of your abilities, and digging on it and hoping that that will inspire something else, you know. It's best advice I can give everybody. Like, I occasionally will run into friends of mine from high school, and they have, like, they're doing far better financially. And they'll tell me stuff about, like, how much their life sucks and then how much I've made it, you know. Like, man, you know, I remember thinking, like, you were wasting your time when we all grew out of this punk thing and you were still doing it, but man, look at you now. And I'm like, yeah, look at me now. I'm driving a Saturn. You know? But I get what they're saying, you know, and I'm thinking like, that guy's making like, you know, shit tons of money, you know, a year, and he's miserable. He hates his kids. He hates his wife. And I'm the guy that made it. Wow. I feel bad for my friend, but at the same time, I guess I did do the right thing because I'm surrounded by people who love me and that I love very much. And you know, I got up this morning and put on Motorhead for breakfast, had my coffee. It's pretty awesome. You know, I didn't have to go and like go to the UPS and put on a uniform and work, and, you know, wear those brown shorts and feel like a jackass. I'm lucky.
Yeah, I think that comes back
to do that too.
Yeah, I think, Ron, I think that is you know, once again, a quality of life thing where it's like, yeah, like once again, profitability is one thing, but in the end, like, you know, doesn't have to be everything. I'd much rather be a happier person and not have something hanging over my head, or, you know, in my industry, investors, like that's the thing that everyone gets involved with, but I don't have any investors because, you know, I didn't want anyone. I didn't want anyone having a say in what I did and how I ran my business. You know, and it's like, yeah, like there are other people who like definitely make more money than I do, but I think the quality of life that I have is you know, is pretty good.
All right, well, we got a couple people left as the attendees and wanted to, if anybody has any questions, and I'm gonna ask you all to unmute yourself, but if you don't want to actually talk, that's a-okay. But if you have any questions that you want to ask, feel free.
Hey, y'all. So it's been a long day. If it's all right, I'm going to leave my camera off, but happy to come off mute. First of all, just want to say thank y'all. I'm really sorry I was a little bit late getting in, had to come straight from something else, but really enjoyed the conversation. I feel like I got a lot of good insight from y'all. And let's see, also, I'll just say, so my name's Grady. I work over in the Honors College, adjunct faculty there. And then also work full-time over at Richmond Public Schools. So I had a question. I think it's good for both of y'all. I'm just thinking about your experience as a student, and you can go back to high school, middle school, college, whatever you want to pull from. But just curious if there was something that you saw either positive or negative in terms of making students from a diverse backgrounds, from minority backgrounds, feel included, basically building a more inclusive community in a place where, you know, education is the mission, like VCU. You know, is there anything that you remember being really strong, or is there anything that you're like, man, it would have been great if they would have just done this or done these few things? Like, what are some of the important pieces there?
So I grew up in Northern Virginia, in a town called Springfield, just south of DC, about 15-20 minutes. And you know, our high school was pretty mixed. I would probably say it was about 40 to 50% minority. So and with that said, it's not that there weren't, like, you know, tribes for sure within at least my high school, but you know, in terms of minority, I don't know. It was very different, and I'm sure it's very different now. I think there was a lot of extracurricular clubs that cater to those minorities and you know, sort of help them with things in terms of jobs, et cetera. Because I will say, from that perspective, there and it is very different now. So I don't really know in terms of that. But you know, in terms of getting jobs, I think it was really rough for them, and I don't know if that is an aspect of generational wealth etc., where it was like, oh, like, you know, you might have, you know, if you came from a better background, a more fluent background, you might not need to get a job so soon. Whereas I think for a lot of marginalized people, at least growing up where I did, those clubs helped people get better jobs when they needed to. I think that's the only thing that I can really think of, at least in my experience, with those things. You know, I did take a lot of business classes really early on, because I wanted to learn that. And it really didn't help me till later on in my life, but there are things that have really stuck with me that I learned in high school, that continue to help me today, within ice cream. And with that said, I went to college briefly, but did not finish. You know, I went to Northern Virginia Community College, and I should have had my associates, but I ran off to you know, jump in a van with my friends and you know, go to a lot of punk shows. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, and I think maybe I'm a little more removed than I should be in terms of that.
Yeah, I graduated from high school in 1984, so I'm even further removed because I don't know what's going on now in education. As far as my experience, like in high school, my high school was predominantly white, and then it was, you know, Hispanic. We had a very, very small, I think we had like maybe total, maybe 6 or 7 African American students in our entire high school. Again, this was in the early 80s, and but it was mostly working class. And I think that in comparison to now, I mean, if you're asking like the differences and stuff, like I said, I can't really compare. What I would like to see more, I think, in any kind of programs is a little more sensitivity I think on both sides. It's like showing people the contributions that other cultures have made to Western culture that they might not even know, things that came from China, things that came from Mexico, whether it's food or a process of doing something. And at the same time, not making liberal whites feel so guilty for being ignorant about things, or for the things their forefathers have done. I think they should be aware of the systemic racism, but I think that we shouldn't be pushing them so hard, because I think the end result is we end up getting these liberals that just try too hard, a little too hard. And I'm like I said, like I've always been more concerned about class structure than racial, because I was fortunate to live in an area that race wasn't as much of an issue. It was more of a class thing, and I think that's the thing that those in power use to keep over all of us. Is it's really a class struggle and monetary reasons of things. But I do think that I really feel good about seeing that diversity is being pushed more, and things are being brought to attention. I just would wish that it was done with a way that it didn't seem so force-fed through education. Because I think what I worry is the people who need to hear this the most feel attacked and they turn off. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to let them know, like we're trying to inform, you know? And I would like to see education do that more, is to not deliver the message in such a way to make people feel guilty for what the past has happened, but point out, hey, this has been happening for a long time. That's a dinosaur way of thinking, and this is what we're going to do, you know, and inform. I think that's really important, you know. I hope I didn't get too off track on that.
Thank you
No, not
both.
at
I
all.
appreciate it.
anybody else have anything, we can wrap it up here right at the 90-minute mark. All right.
I'm good.
Well, great. Well, on that note, thank you all for the guests that stuck around. Felt like 7 o'clock was kind of the shut off time for a bunch of the attendees, which
Yeah,
is totally
perfect.
understandable. But I'm really grateful that folks that stuck around, and this recording will actually be uploaded to our website for anyone that missed it or had to cut out early for class or what have you. So thank you all both for coming out. I
Hey,
really
thanks,
do
Dave.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. Well, I will be in touch in a day or so, and have a great rest of the week to everybody.
All right, y'all. See you later.
All right. Awesome.
Bye.
See ya.